Hi. You ever judge people, when you first meet them? Just find out the way they look, the way they talk, the way they laugh. No, not used people, huh? It's just me and it. First impressions. How they are formed, how they affect outcomes, and how accurate and persistent they are have been the subject of much scientific inquiry. A great deal is now known about the evolutionary psychology and neural pathways involved in the formation of first impressions. But that is not the subject of this evening's discourse now. In summation, Homo sapiens process hundreds of bits of discrete data within milliseconds of meeting a new person. And the impressions thus formed affect our actions and attitudes toward that person. And this in turn affects the trajectory of the entire relationship. Study after study shows that first impressions are quite powerful and persistent. In other words, we tend not to change our minds. None of that came as a big surprise to me, and it probably doesn't to you either. But I find that last conclusion quite disturbing, because it represents a huge loss of potential when it comes to human happiness and understanding. And I know this because, unlike a lot of the subjects of these studies, apparently, I find that my first impressions are far from immutable. Don't get me wrong, like everybody, I make snap judgments based on appearances, body language, social context. I'm subject to some seemingly unshakable biases that I really wish I could purge from my system. But the best I've been able to do so far is to catch myself in the act of making unkind judgments. And then to open myself up, really sincerely, to find out just how wrong they were. And because of this mental habit, I sometimes find that people I found intensely attractive at first glance are hardly worth a second glance. And some people who hardly made my radar when I first met them, sometimes even people whom I had a slight aversion, can turn out to be the most fascinating human beings I've ever met in my entire life. And so I've come to think of this process of getting to know someone as equivalent to developing photographs in an old-fashioned darkroom. This blank sheet of paper slips into a tray of chemicals. It's comprised of our projections, preconceptions, prejudices, personal experience, personality. And then an image starts to emerge. And then color and detail. And in time, we may gasp with delight, or shake our heads in dismay, or even weep at what is revealed to us. But if the photographer is masterful and the developer is keen, we can find beauty even in the horror. And the really wonderful thing about making a new friend is that this process of development and discovery never ends if we accept people's gifts of revelation with reverence and gratitude. Depths upon depths will be revealed to us. Joy, sorrow, their deepest hopes, their fears, vulnerability, strength, all the things that make them who they are, this precious person. But we can never know everything. And so even after we've known somebody for years, they can still surprise us, just like we can surprise ourselves. Because our inner journeys also take place in a dark room. And I find that when it comes to adjusting that cocktail of crap in my tray, fine-tuning my development process, and pointing out little details of the composition that I might otherwise have missed, nothing else is quite as helpful as a good friend.